Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
Yeah, man, on a mission from God. It's Aaron, Dave, Patrick, Jermaine, and Sal on the Rock Salt Muzkast Experience.
We're putting the band back together.
Again. Oh, wait.
We're on a mission from God.
Our very special guest today, Sal Polichetti from Sonseed.
Me and Elwood. Putting the band back together.
Ma'am, you got to understand, this is a lot bigger than any domestic problems you might be experiencing.
Would it make you feel any better if you knew that what we're asking Matthew to do is a holy thing?
You see, we're on a mission from God.
Your friend and mine, he's a friend of Jesus, you know.
Cadillac for a microphone. Then you lie to me about the band. Now you're gonna put me right back in the joint.
They're not going to catch us. We're on a mission from God.
He's got big news, big exciting news.
106 miles to Chicago. Got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
So we're going to get to all that. I'm waiting for anybody to jump in with whatever they want to say.
Dude, you get so aggravated when we interrupt your daggone intro monologue. And now all of a sudden you want us to jump in, Dave?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you want us here?
He
No,
complains
Dave,
about our timing and everything
Dude, our
else.
silence.
Oh man.
Strike up the band, Sal. Every week, Sal, that's what I say. Strike up the band, Sal, and we go right into Jesus is a friend of mine. And sometimes you're right on cue, and sometimes you're a beat late.
I'm old. Stuff happens.
Sal, if you haven't met our friend Jermaine, he's in a little band called Tricord down there in Georgia.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
So, Sal, I was flipping through Record Store Day. I saw Record Store Days coming up in April, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I had to double check to make sure there was no other bands called Sonseed because they're releasing First Fruit on Record Store Day.
Well, it was almost a surprise to me.
It was almost a surprise.
Almost a surprise. I knew that was the intent. They sent me a test pressing a few months ago. It sounded fine. I didn't know exactly when this was going to happen. So it wasn't until I got the text message from you and actually from someplace else, a radio station in Arizona, I think.
Oh, wow.
Texted me, but I said, what is Record Day? I had no idea what this was. Is this a thing? I don't know. I mean, I was a kid. Every day was Record Day. I used to go to Corvettes and buy my albums at Corvettes.
I have heard of Corvettes.
It was a chain of, I guess, like Macy's years ago.
Okay.
And every week they had a different record label that was on sale. So for $1.99, you could get whatever it was, Capitol or Warner Brothers or whatever the week was. I waited until that record company went on sale, and I would go to Corvettes, and that's where I bought all my records when I was a kid.
And what kind of records were you buying at Corvettes?
Let's see, I was buying at the time, Doors albums, Doors, Creedence, Clearwater Revival, big fan of back then. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. Big Zappa fan.
Are you really? Nice.
In fact, the two, and I would just go to the Fillmore once a month. So I've seen Hendrix 5 times or so. And
wow.
But the two acts that I've seen most were Frank Zappa. I saw 4 different versions of the Mothers of Invention, and Flo and Eddie.
Flo, I don't know Flo and Eddie. Who's Flo and Eddie?
Mark Bolan and Howard Kalin from the Turtles.
Oh, really?
They were in the Mothers of Invention for a couple of years.
See, I didn't know that. I am a fan of Frank Zappa. I'm just not a fan of his music.
Oh, well, it's as a musician, you could appreciate it because it's very, although it sounds very ad-libish, not everything is planned.
Wow.
And like James Brown, he was a real son of a gun. I mean, to the other musicians.
Oh, was
mean,
he?
He rehearsed them into the ground. Everything was planned.
Wow.
And live, it was something else. Yeah, it was very good.
I told this story recently, and I do like this story, which is the Alice Cooper chicken story. Do you know that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So when somebody taught, well, I don't know why you'd take a chicken to an Alice Cooper concert, but someone did. And they tossed it up on stage, and Alice Cooper in true WKRP style, he threw it back out into the audience, and it was quickly torn apart, drawn and quartered, should I say. And so he was telling the story to Frank Zappa. And
because he was on Frank Zappa's label at that time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. So that makes the story make a little more sense. And so, yeah, he was telling the story to Frank Zappa, and Zappa said, because he said, I'm sorry, I honestly thought chickens could, it was a bird. I thought it could fly away. I didn't think it would sink into the crowd. And Zappa said, well, have you said that to anybody else? And he goes, no. And Zappa said, don't. That is great press.
Right. Zappa had originally signed him to Verve Records, which was Frank Zappa's label.
I didn't know that. So that's awesome. All right. Well, and for anybody that is out of the loop, Sal is he's YouTube famous, aren't you?
Yeah.
What last time I checked, it was 13 million views on Jesus Is a Friend of Mine, that song that we play every single week on this show. Sal was in a band called Sonseed. And for those of that haven't heard the story, Sal, give us a quick rundown on how that video came to be and how Jesus Is a Friend of Mine came to be.
Well, Sonseed was formed by the cousin of my first wife, Patricia, who was in Sonseed. He was very involved in his parish in Brooklyn. And there was a special anniversary mass with the parish, and the bishop at the time was coming to celebrate mass. So they put him, he was on the parish council or something, and they asked him if he would put together a special music program for the mass. So he had friends in different parishes who played in church all around the Diocese of Brooklyn. So he just invited a bunch of us, including Patricia and myself. And that was the first time that 10 or 12 of us had met. We rehearsed the songs for the mass. And after the mass, we all went out for lunch or whatever. And we were sitting around and we were talking about it, how the state of Catholic church music was really not terribly exciting. It was either, the choral music or like folk music, which most of us played in folk music at church. And we thought, wouldn't it be great, like if there was like because there was evangelical music back then, but none of it was Catholic. I think the Imperials were very popular back then. Amy Grant was popular back then. And so a bunch of us who played in local rock bands said, well, why don't we just form a band? And there were like 5 or 6 guys who were those of us who had been musicians, and the rest of the people who sang in church. Of course, you sing, that's an instrument also, but they didn't play anything. So we found a church that would house us. And we started by taking songs from the hymnals and rocking them up a little bit, put a drum beat to it, put a guitar solo in, a piano solo in. We had one guy that played clarinet and flute, put a flute solo in. And that's how we started. And we started playing in churches, of course, because there were the prayer groups. With Bible study was getting very big in Brooklyn at the time. So a lot of these prayer groups would go to their pastors and say, we have a musical act that would love to come and do a show at our church. And it wouldn't, we didn't charge any, there was so many of us, we didn't charge anything, but we would pass a basket at the end. At any one point at that time, there was between 12 and 15 of us on stage, depending on who could make that particular gig. So it didn't cost the parish anything. And what an instrument, it's going to be all, Christian music. Sure. Why not? And that's how it started. I think our first concert, we had maybe 40, 50 people there, But then we started playing, and then it eventually got to the point where at one church, St. Thomas Aquinas in Brooklyn, every month we would have the first Friday of every month, we had a coffee house, free admission. We'd serve coffee, tea, and donuts, put a box in the back of the room, said, if you have any, if you feel so inclined, give money. The first one we had maybe 40, 50 people. After about 6 months, we were getting 200-300 people to show.
Wow.
And whole families would come, moms, dads, grandparents, kids. And it was nice. We would do a 2-hour show and we try to get a theme to choose the songs. And eventually people from the group started to write songs. So we would throw in an original song every now and then. Well, eventually somebody said, one of the people started to say, I wish you guys would make a record so we could have something to take home with us. So we thought that was a good idea. So we didn't want to pay royalties too much. So we used some original songs. We used some public domain songs. My first wife, Patricia, wrote a couple of the first few songs she wrote, fabulous. And then they were planning the record. And I'm a selfish guy, and one of my faults. And I noticed that the songs they were picking from the record, I wasn't singing anything. And live in concert, I sang lead in more than half the stuff. So I said to Patricia, I says, if I'm going to get on this album, I better write a song. So I had just heard on the radio, every Friday afternoon, Scott Muni, who was a big famous DJ in New York, every Friday he would play imports. Now, for those of you pre-internet, if you wanted to hear a record that was recorded in England or some other country, you had to wait until somebody put it on a plane or on a boat and shipped it here. There was no internet. So every Friday he would play things from England. That was the name of his show. That was the first time we had ever heard Jimi Hendrix, who broke in England. It was the first time we had ever heard Led Zeppelin. The first time I had heard Abbey Road, he played the entire album beginning to end.
Wow.
So about 2 weeks earlier, I had heard a song by the Selector called Too Much Pressure. Now, I didn't know it was called ska. I had no idea what it was. All I knew is it had that nice up-tempo polka-like beat. I was in a bad mood that day. I had a rough day, but then I heard this song and immediately it just picked me up. And I went, wow, this is great. So writing a song, I thought of that beat, that genre. I wrote the song in about 10, 15 minutes, which is why I've never written another one, because I could never do that again. I brought it to the guys and the people in the group. Some of them liked it. Some of them didn't understand it. Patricia, my first wife, who was a classically trained piano player, said, you want me to do what? Play the chords on the upbeat? I said, yeah, like a polka. Oh, okay. And we did it. They didn't particularly care for it. We did the song at a couple of coffee houses and people loved it, especially the kids. Big sing-along, big dance-along thing. So they put it on the record. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in a recording studio, sometimes it will take hours to record a song beginning to end. This song took about 20 minutes. They didn't, because it was like a throwaway. The rhythm tracks, one take. Guitar overdub solo, one take. My vocals, one take. I said, I think I could do it better. They went, no, it's fine. Leave it. It's great. And I guess about 6 months later, this is where the video came in. There used to be a TV show on Sunday mornings on NBC, on Channel 4, NBC, called the First Estate, Religion in Review. It was kind of like a ecumenical talk show. Different religions who, like, for example, the show we were on, there was a guy from the Salvation Army talking about their latest fundraising efforts. And there were two young rabbis that taught the Old Testament using marionettes. They called it Punch and Judaism. It was kind of creepy, actually, but I guess it served the purpose. So they contacted us. We heard that you're Catholic and you made this record, and we'd like to have you on to move your lips to a couple of songs on the show. We went, fine. They told us what to wear because people make fun of the clothes we were wearing. we told them we played in t-shirts and jeans, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that on TV. We want the guys to wear, blue looks great. We want everyone to wear blue. Guys wear vests. Vests look very nice on television. So we get there, we're setting up, and they say, okay, we're going to open the show with that Jesus is a Friend of Mine song. And the whole group went, oh. And I went, yeah. FaceTime on TV.
Yeah. Here's your $20.
Here's my exactly. So it was my 15 minutes. So, and that's it. We played for a little while. Then people started to leave the group. My first wife wanted to do a solo thing because by this point she had written about 2 or 3 dozen really great Christian songs. So the group broke up. We had our last concert in December of 82 or 83. In fact, there were some songs from that concert that I've put on YouTube. If you look, Sonseed's last concert.
I have to go check that out. I didn't know that was there.
You know, and we were cutting edge at the time, actually, and we were a really good group. Everything went by. How many years passed? 20? Yeah, I guess it was between 1983 and 2010. Hadn't thought of it, not a single thought. And then a friend of mine who runs a theater group called me up and he says, somebody sent me an email. Now I live upstate New York, and all this stuff happened when I lived in Brooklyn, New York, and which is part of this New York City, if you're not aware of that. So he says to me, were you ever in a group called Sonseed? I mean, yeah, I was. Why? He said, well, this guy contacted me from California. He says, now I didn't give him your phone number, but here's his phone number. I said, all right. So I called the guy up, but yeah, it's me. I was in Sonseed. Do I owe you money? Did I date your sister? I mean, and he directed me. You in front? Yes, I'm in front of a computer. He goes, good. And he gave me a website to look up, and it was a blog site, a pop culture blog site, where he researched old TV shows and old movies, like Where Are They Now type stuff. And there on that blog site was the video from that TV show. He says, where did you get this? He says, well, I lived in Brooklyn when this show aired, and a local priest friend of mine had videotaped the show, and he gave me the videotape. He says, about 2 or 3 months ago, I was looking through my box of stuff to see what I could put on my show, and I found this video. Now, without any explanation, he put it on his blog, like not where it was from, not when it was from. He goes, and it just blew right off the roof. People thought it was fake. He goes, and I knew it wasn't, but because it was so campy and kitschy, people didn't,
Right.
He goes, can I do an interview with you for my blog? I said, sure. We did a little interview. We did the blog. And then about a month later, I guess, somebody saw the video on his blog and copied it and put it on YouTube. And then somebody called me, says, I just saw you on YouTube. Not you now, but you like a long time ago. And I says, it's got to be the Jesus is a Friend of Mine thing. And I searched it, and sure enough, there I am. And so as a YouTube user, I logged on and I said, look, yeah, that's me. I'm the guy. And it's 30 years old. And then everything went from there, just kind of like blew up. And
Now, you've been over to England how many times now? Because of the song?
5 times.
Wow.
And you just got back, right?
We went back last November, 2014. I got an email from a guy in England, Paul Williams, who says, hi, we have a charity reggae ska festival for children's cancer support. And he's every year we do a ska. This is our third year, and your song is very big here. And it was very big in England. I didn't make the British ska connection. I didn't get it. And would you come here? All the bands here know you and they know your song. We could get a band to back you up. And I wasn't going to go. This is nuts. And I told a couple of I have 3 sisters. I told one of them about it. But she has business associates in London. And she says, you got to go. How do you not go? I mean, so you buy your own plane fare, so they're going to put us up for the weekend. She says, the things you regret are the things you don't do. You got to do it. I'll go with you. All right. So two of my wife works in a school. She couldn't go at the time. So, and because my kids were young, they were in school. So me and two of my sisters went there for the first time, and I was blown away. The band, I was walking through the crowd. They went, "Oh my God, you're the guy from America. I can't believe you came."
You know, I got an idea for you, Sal. You ought to buy all those records from Record Store Day and then take them with you and, you know, sell them autographed copy of Sonseed for like $50.
There you go.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is though, but the misconception was that people thought that Sonseed was a ska band, and Sonseed was not. I just happened to write a song that was in the ska genre, and to tell you the truth, I didn't really get it until Paul Williams's band is called the Scapones. And if actually on Record Day, they have a new album coming out actually called Northern Gods.
Yeah, More Than Gods.
Northern Gods.
Oh, Northern Gods.
Because they're from North London. They're from
Okay, so
they're not North London, Northern England.
check that out on Record Store Day as well. The Scapones.
And they did a small tour of the United States in 2019. So they were going to play in Brooklyn. And so my sisters and I were going to surprise him by showing up, because it was our old stomping ground. But a month before, he contacted me through an email and said, I don't know if you know this, we're playing in Brooklyn, and our bass player, it's the last date of our tour. Our bass player has to go home. So would you consider playing our set with us? I was like, how do you say no to a guy that changed my life? I said, sure. He sends me a set list with 30 ska songs on it that I had never heard. But in 5 weeks, I found them on YouTube, wrote the chords down. I learned them all. We get there. I get to the place in the little pub in Brooklyn. And he said, we're going to do your song too. Without a rehearsal. We did it out in the parking lot. We're rehearsing the song. And it was great. And I made an impression on them, which was nice, because for a change, I wasn't the Jesus is a friend of mine guy. I was a guy that's been playing bass for 50 years. And it was kind of nice to get that kind of recognition.
Right.
Now you play once a month, right?
Huh?
You play once a month on the
You have your own band.
yes.
Yeah,
One Swift
we have a
Kick.
band. We play 50s, 60s.
Okay.
And all four of us sing. And we average about once a month for a gig, which is not bad for a bunch of old guys.
Yeah, that's great.
Now, do you get anybody at the shows, in the crowd yelling out, Jesus is a friend of mine, like Freebird or something?
You know where? In Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah.
We play we play twice at the Fall Festival in Misquamicut, Rhode Island. And the guy that hired us was because of Jesus is a friend of mine.
Wow.
So now we have to play it in our sets when we play in Rhode Island.
Now you have a daughter, right? Or
I have a
don't know
daughter
how
and a
many-
son.
daughter and a son. Okay. I don't know their ages or anything, but this just occurred to me. Did they have to go to school or anything like that? And people are going, hey, I saw your dad on YouTube. And they're kind of like, oh, please.
No, it's because you never do anything good for your kids. You know that they pretty much ignore the whole thing.
Yeah.
They don't lead with that. They don't mention it. In fact, my daughter, who's 26 now, she will be 26. She's right now in the Disney college program, working at Disney.
Oh, nice.
When she was in college, when she went to college, she was doing a play. She's a theater gal. They were doing a play, because they don't bring this up. I don't think any of their classmates through junior high school or high school knew who I am or they are or any of that stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, they were in the locker room, in the green room before the show. They were putting their makeup on and getting dressed. And two of the girls, for some reason, were talking about Jesus is a friend of mine. She heard that in conversation. She goes, what are you talking about? She goes, we're talking about this song we know, we both like the song. And my daughter says, you're probably not going to believe this, but that's my dad. And they went, what? That's your dad? I said, why didn't you lead with that? Why didn't you tell us that when we first met you? Now, meanwhile, my wife and I happened to be going to that particular performance that night. She purposely did not tell them then that I was going to be in the audience.
Mm.
Well, after the show, they took their bow, the curtain closed. She turned to them and said, "Oh, by the way, my dad's here tonight." So we're standing out in the lobby waiting to see them because, you know, our daughter is terrific. And she comes out, I give her a hug. "Hi, how you doing?" And I look to my left, and there are these two 20-year-old girls standing there like this.
You got Sonseed groupies.
So it's like, oh boy.
Well, you have lots of fans, and I do know that you have lots of fans, and I always like to, whenever it pops up on TV or in culture or somewhere, you know, anything like that, it always gives me a warm fuzzy that I go, yes, that guy's a friend of mine. And
Well, when at this past year's big one, charity thing, I made friends with some bands that I didn't know before. In fact, I wound up playing with 3 different bands that on the Saturday night. Big Andrew Laidlaw, the lead singer of Big Fat Panda,
I haven't heard of them.
fabulous ska reggae band. They
Okay.
do a version of the Nancy Sinatra boots. These boots are made for walking.
Oh yeah.
So I had sent them a video once of my band doing it with my daughter singing it. So what does he do? He calls me up on stage. So we're singing "These Boots Are Made for Walking" with Big Fat Panda. Later
Wow.
on that night, which was planned, I did the song with a California-based ska band, Monkey.
Okay.
And that was pretty cool. And
Nice.
I play with them. And that's on YouTube also. And then later on in the night, the Scapones came on to do their set. And I noticed it was Scapones and friends. And they're walking up on the stage. You're one of our friends, right? I was, oh, okay. Sang a couple of songs to them, played a couple of songs to them. It was great. We had a wonderful time. And I like going. First of all, if you've never been, England is pretty neat. I could live there. I really could. I mean, they have
Wow.
their problems. They have their problems like we have our problems, but they
Right.
take it all differently because, they almost got destroyed in 2 world wars. So, so
Well, and there
everything
was that
else is-
Revolutionary War thing too, you know.
they kind of got screwed that one too.
Well, Sal, thanks for coming on and talking with us, and
problem.
congratulations on the record store day. I really do think it's a big deal.
Okay.
Hey, it is the
Yeah.
by the way, if you do some radio interviews or whatever, drop our names in there for me. Just go,
Okay.
hey, I was talking to my friends on the MUZKAST experience about that. That's all I need.
Okay.
See,
I
and
can do
I know he'll do it too. Anyhow, Sal, thanks for coming on again. And
No
we'll
problem.
talk to you. Maybe we'll talk to you in April or so when when I can get my hands on one of these things.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
only
Maybe me
1,000
too.
of them out there. So, and we'll keep an eye out, to try to get you a copy as well, just in case you don't get one, because you really should have one, right?
Yes.
I'm sure they'll probably send me one. I would imagine.
Well, hopefully they see this and send you one just because we've been talking about it. But
Yes.
and by the way, Patrick, I think you should take him up on you need flute solos, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never I can't say that I've ever heard a flute solo in a song. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh, let's see. Chicago.
Jethro
Color
Tull.
My World.
Yeah, Jethro Tull, yeah, they do a bunch of flute.
Yeah,
but,
Jethro Tull's a bunch of flute solos there too.
Yeah. So I take it back. I have heard it. Yeah, I don't think it'd go with metal. We might try it. Who knows?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? It could be something new. We could just start a whole new trend with flute solos and metal.
And then once you throw the piccolo in, man, it's all over.
That's right.
Let's start with the flute, Dave. Relax, pal. Pump the brakes. Starting with the flute.
All right.
Hey,
Hey,
thanks, Sal, very much.
thanks for coming on, Sal.
Not a problem.
Good to see you,
Appreciate
Sal.
it.
Good to see you.
It's
Bye.
it's the Rock Salt Muzkast experience.